I am Peter Gould. I'm the co-creator, executive producer. I directed this episode and I co-wrote it.
Hi, I'm Ariel Levine. I co-wrote the episode with Peter.
I'm Mark Freeborn. I'm the production designer for season 5.
I'm Steve Brown, the construction coordinator for season 5 and beyond.
I'm Al Goto, the stunt coordinator for season 5 and for the show.
I'm Valerie Chu. I'm the assistant to Peter Gould.
And now for season 6, our writer's assistant.
Woo!
Yay! This shot was the POV shot was actually done by Tom Schnauz in the previous episode. Thank you, Tom. I'm so excited to have Steve Brown on this. I have to say, I'm excited to have all you guys. But I want to ask Steve, what does a construction coordinator do?
We bring the plans to life when the production designer, like Mark Freeborn, comes up with an idea for a set or location or whatnot, which is designed in conjunction with directors and the showrunners, and a lot of input goes into these ideas. We bring it to life. We build it. We look off the plans and just give them a nice space to act in, basically.
Well, there's a lot of construction. There's a lot of stunts in this episode, and you guys were very kind to me about making this work. Ariel, I don't want to talk about it too much, but we actually had a different teaser for this episode. There was a very ambitious teaser that involved Jimmy as a child that I was excited about, but this episode was just packed and something had to go. Something had to go.
Sadly.
It was a very painful, that was a pretty painful decision for me anyway, but it's maybe for some other project. Maybe it'll get repurposed.
Keeping my fingers crossed for the future.
Yeah.
But this works fantastically as a teaser. I love this opening. The way it plays off of the, incredible, 509.
Kind of assumed we'd be staying at a Motel 6.
And this is, where is this, Mark? Did you build this?
No, this is the lobby of, oh my God, a blank on the name. Steve, help me out.
Andaluz
Hotel in Albuquerque. It is one of the first Hilton hotels. It's been lovingly restored over the past 15 years or so.
But this is a set.
Yeah.
I feel like we should play a game. At least viewers should play a game. Is it a set or is it a location? Because you honestly, if I wasn't there, I would have trouble telling.
That's good.
We looked at a lot of hotel rooms, as I recall.
We did.
Should I put something on that?
We had a lot of hotel rooms this season.
But
this one had to be. This one was the pièce de résistance because there was so much dialogue in it over the episode.
It was it's tough to shoot in a real hotel room. I mean, you can do it for a brief scene, but it really is much easier to shoot something like this on stage, and it gives everybody a little bit of elbow room to work. I remember, it's interesting. I have a hard time sometimes visualizing the size of these sets, and one of the things that you did for me that was great, Mark, is that you would tape the floor of the stage off to figure out, so I would understand just basically the layout and how the size of things, and that was just so helpful. But what is the process of actually when you read the script? What is the first thing you do, Mark? How do you figure out what you need to do?
Well, you get to direct for a minute or two. It's important to be able to visualize the space in your own head and understand in your own head how you would approach the scene. And from that, just check the boxes, look at the elements that are needed. For instance, this one needed to have need to be an ensuite room. It needed to have exterior windows. It needed to have an approach. So break it down, think about how much action and how it's going to be used, and that is what drives the basic bones of the set. And then in this particular case, we took off from the original hotel and just blended the two textures together.
That was that scene that we just passed, and boy, and you do it really makes it so much easier to shoot a scene and more fun when you've had a set that's so fully thought through.
Oh, it leaves the director of photography so many more options in terms of camera angles and lighting. And in that particular instance, the lighting was very important because he had to transition through evening, daylight, full night.
There are way more practicals in that room than I think any real hotel room would have, and they're beautiful. And there's that, and we'll see as the episode goes on. There's that wall with the little pots that are in niches that are backlit, and then there's an arch that's lit. It's really, it gives a lot of visual possibilities. And also, a lot of possibilities for, on this show, we like wide shots, and there are a lot of possibilities for backing up a little bit, which I love to do. I always try to parcel out the close-ups and only use them when they're really necessary.
I think in this show too, the wide shots are so much a signature of the look of the show. I mean, look at the one that's on screen now. It's is it necessary? Maybe not, but it's spectacular, and it tells the story in a single shot.
And that shot is a VFX shot.
The roof is completely a VFX shot. We supplied the texture on the walls and the dumpster and on the ground dressing, but the roof of the place is totally VFX. It's too bad that we don't have that spectacular explosion that Werner did.
Yeah, we blew up this place in Melissa's episode, and then we sprang it on you that we were going to come back.
Yeah,
and of course, it was good for everybody except for sound because there's a working airport right there. Now, how did you find this wall, Steve?
Well, we knew that this was a compound that was fortified, and once Mark had a good vision for kind of a tilt-up concrete kind of look, that really gave us a good path to go down. We were able to just start making sections of this wall because each one of those, you can see where the sections are. Each one's a 4x10 section that eliminated having to do a lot of extra cutting because that's what the Luan sheets are that we get. And so we just started banging out these 4x10 sections, and then when we had our prep days at the location, we were able to just go in and stack them like Legos and just make it safe. So we were able to pre-prep.
You don't really get a sense of the scope of the wall. It was a huge project. Do you remember how many linear feet? I think 300, 350 feet or so, wasn't it?
Something I don't remember exactly. Yeah, and then when a wall like that is double-sided, you have to be able to see both sides. You can't have bare framing on the other side, and it's got to be built in a way and stood up in a way that it's not going to blow down in a strong wind gust and that sort of thing.
It was interesting to see them because they had feet. They were not fixed into the ground. They had, isn't that right? They had little feet.
Yeah, they're on big feet. Steel plates at every post, and then that way we can just kind of stand it up, and then we can just disassemble it and pack it up to come and go.
And this is by the way, this is a beautiful house in Albuquerque.
I love it. This house.
I think of all this really made me want to move to Albuquerque. Being in this house, it's a beautiful house in a beautiful location, and everything about this place just was right up my alley. It was beautifully put together. The homeowners had some lovely art, which I'm glad to say we packed away safely. and made it into Lalo's place. And Lalo has really good taste, I think, is one of the things I'm getting from this.
He's got money.
He does. He's not the world's greatest boss. Now, Ariel, this is, I believe, is this your first produced episode of television?
It is. Yeah. Very, very exciting. It was so much fun.
Because how long have you been working with us? You were our writer's assistant.
Yeah. For seasons 3, 4, and 5. I started as the post PA season 1, writers PA season 2, and then I jumped in the room. So I feel incredibly lucky to get to have a hand in this fantastic show. I'm big fan of the show.
It was a great closing episode too.
Well, I'm glad you like it. It's really fun for me to get to direct, and I think it's really good for showrunners to direct, if nothing else, because it gives us humility when we're working with directors, and also because I get to work with the best cast and crew in television. This particular scene, I tried something a little bit different for me anyway, which is to try to do it. It was actually, there's a master that was a oneer, and it actually did work as a oneer, but as I watched, we did a few little extra pieces like that one you just saw where he grabbed the menu book, and with that, using those let me kind of use my favorite parts of each take, and it was a really fun experiment for me. I like doing that. The tricky thing is that you really have to be on it with the cast and with the camera and portion. We have Marshall Adams and Paul Donachie, our A-camera operator, were really invaluable in helping to make this work. And of course, Bob and Ray, of course, are always on it. They're always great. And so why not play it in as few shots as possible? It was a slightly different approach for me anyway on the show.
I'm just saying, let's take advantage.
I have to say, I really appreciate Marshall's lighting. This room has a strong painterly quality to it, and the Scenics did a great job laying the groundwork for it. But his lighting enhances it just extraordinarily. I mean, look at that! How beautiful that shot is.
Now, how many people are actually involved in putting a set? By the way, this set's amazing too. There's all like the coffee maker. There's a book that tells you about all the amenities in the hotel, everything, every detail. You could, if someone hit you on the head and you woke up in there, you would think you were in a real hotel room. But having said that, how many people are actually involved? Who are some of the players in taking this from a page of the script to being an actual place that we can shoot at?
I point, and Steve is responsible for all the rest, so he can answer that one.
Yeah, our department will come up with the design, of course, based on what the story is, what the director wants to see, and that sort of thing. When we get plans, basically we will try to work out any bugs, like, making sure we've got the right size doors or whatever. Usually our department designs all that stuff, and we just run with it. We start with carpenters that build the basic walls and framework and ceilings. In this case, there's a lot of plaster work, all those arches around the doors and the bed there. There's a little bit of carved foam to make those. So all these parts going together, and then the Scenics will come in. We've got great painters, and they really put on the finish touch. And it's great that it looks real, like all the details that come together. If you can't tell that it's a set or not, that's because it's a combination of good design, good construction, good finishing, good set dressing. It all comes together.
No, you don't have.
And that's the really important thing. We all aim for being able to walk into any location and have a complete stranger believe it's real.
this episode, there was a lot of sets, new sets for this. With some we'll see later in the episode. So we were rambling to get them all done, but everybody pulled it off.
How's it going?
Let's see. I have half an hour to plead out 4 taggers and a homeless guy who tried to stuff a dozen hardwood.
This is a fun shot. We were actually were on a very long arm to make this work, and the dolly was up in the hall in order to do this pullback. This, of course, is Roy Wood Jr., who's one of our favorites. He's somebody who my wife Nora and I love on The Daily Show. And it was an interesting thing when Ariel and I were talking about this character. We kept on trying to figure out who this guy was and how he held himself and what was his attitude. Mm-hmm. And somehow we hit on this thought of Roy Wood Jr. Just in the writing. I think it helped. Ariel, that's my memory, and it kind of helped with the writing to understand who he was.
Yeah, because he has to walk kind of a fine line, right? Because Grant, the public defender, he has to be kind of overworked but not jaded, and he plays it so perfectly, and it was absolutely helpful to in coming up with a lot of this dialogue, picturing Roy Wood Jr. because he's so great and he's so he plays it so well.
There's something very endearing about him, and he's probably younger than I expected. When I met him, he comes off for some reason on screen. He seems a little bit older. He's very light on his feet. He's funny, and he really knew exactly what he was doing here. It was a lot of fun. It was over all too fast, to be honest with you. And then here's another set. But it's a set in a location. So what's your approach to this, Mark?
Well, I think that it was important that she be frightened by just the sheer volume of unsolved cases and unresolved issues in the legal system, and she has made a commitment to herself to devote her time to working on some of these forgotten cases, and we wanted to make sure that everybody got a sense of how daunting a task she was approaching, and due to scheduling, we ended up building it in the basement of the courthouse.
So for once, it's actually where it's supposed to be.
Yes. Yes, exactly. Works out that way from time to time. And we wanted it to be an oppressive space, and we went with the leaky ceiling. We just played with that and enhanced it a little bit, and the ragged boxes. And it was kind of a fun set to do.
It was fun to shoot it. I didn't think it was going to be, but I would have been happy with all these scenes. I would have been happier to keep shooting.
Yeah.
I really was enjoying myself. How could you not? I mean, it's just the ultimate electric train set. And of course, Michael and Tony end up with this great relationship between these two characters. Whereas I think this is about as warm as Lalo can get to one of his subordinates, and it's none too warm.
I do. Right now, steady.
Poor Nacho.
Poor Nacho.
He's under so much pressure, so much stress.
He does. He plays it well, though. He
really does.
You feel for him. You know his life is not easy.
When he's acting, and there's so many layers to Nacho, right? He has to act like he's acting, and Michael Mando does such a great job playing it.
Playing both ends against the middle throughout all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And here's another wonderful set.
I'm in love with this bathroom. I want this bathroom. Someday I will use pictures of this if I ever get to design my own house. If I'm ever fortunate enough.
This is our special needs bathroom. You'll see why soon.
It's a again, I would have loved to have shot more in this set. Once we figured out that there was going to be a rising bathtub, I think the way we originally broke the episode, we had a different solution to how Nacho was going to get all this information. I think there might have been a character who actually snuck up to him and told him this and that. And then we realized that we were going to build this bathroom, and Ariel and I moved it to this, which I think is like infinitely better than what the first idea was. Now, here's a fun thing. I had this, it's not that original, but it was I had this feeling, wouldn't it be fun to do this elevator scene in one? We had that great elevator sequence in episode 502, and I just thought we should do something different. And I wanted to see if we could do it in one, but doing it in one meant, you can't shoot in a real elevator in one. There just isn't room. So, Mark, this is our set. This is our set elevator.
Yes.
And then what are we looking at when we see outside the elevator?
We're looking at a faux painted marble wall to match the location.
And then it switches. It switches. If you watch carefully,
Yes,
you'll see.
yes. In the middle of the scene, we change wall panels, so we believe that we're on a different floor.
That's right. And it was really fun. The whole crew was rushing around. Efrain Cortez, the first AD, was great at making sure all the extras matched, because now, of course, we're on location. So the funny thing is, it came off so well. I don't think anyone's ever going to notice. But there's kind of a magic trick in that last shot.
See, that is the advantage of using ex-theater people as decorators and scenists, because you can pull that off.
I think we shot some behind the scenes footage, and it was just so much fun to see everybody racing around in there. This is a lovely scene.
This is a renovation of an existing courtroom. We needed additional courtrooms for the script, and scheduling put us in a position where we just rehabbed one of the courtrooms that we'd established in earlier episodes.
But then the very next night,
and it's a great example of Marshall's inspiration, because it might have even been on the day. He said, "Well, what if we just don't turn on the lights? Mm-hmm. What if the lights are out in this courtroom?" And we made sure that we shot the wide shots during the day.
Yes.
And then Steve Latecki and the amazing lighting crew was able to simulate sunlight after the sun went down.
Yeah.
To finish this scene off. But it gives it a really different feeling that all the lights coming from those windows, that those fluorescents above are not on. Ariel, you wrote the hell out of this scene, I have to say.
Thank you. This was a really fun one to write. I remember and talking it through with Ray and Patrick. They did such a great job with this scene. I remember on the day Ray with that laugh, she was wondering whether or not it was too big, but I think it's just perfect. And that line she has, "I'd make my own choices for my own reasons," was something I believe we added after talking with Ray. They do so much work getting inside these characters' heads that it makes the scene just so much better. It's fantastic. I love watching the scene.
Well, Patrick's got such a great "I'll pick your pocket while smiling at you" kind of an approach to his character.
Yes. That's such a great way to describe it.
He's a handsome man.
Oh, I love this shot right here too.
Yeah, we're always trying to figure out what the last shot of an act will be.
Yeah.
It's a good one.
Yeah, that was fun. That was fun.
I can't say enough about the camera crew. Every opening, every closing, all the coverage is just so tight.
This was a special day for me for a bunch of reasons. One was, of course, Bob I love the energy Bob's bringing to the scene, but also Marshall had to go scout that day, and Paul Donaghy, our A camera operator, was DP for this particular day. and it was just so much fun to work with him that way. And he of course was DP. He shot episode 4 this season. He is a fantastic talent.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
and a wonderful guy. I mean, there's such depth to the creativity in this group. It makes it fun to see somebody else take the lead now and then. And I'm hoping we see a lot more of. I'm sure we'll see a lot more of Paul's work as a cinematographer in the future, for sure.
You saved my life.
this is an interesting location. We actually found it on Breaking Bad, and it was the house was vacant when we found it, and the homeowner appreciated our work so much that he essentially kept the house empty for our convenience. So when we needed to use it, we use it. It's our standing set away from home.
Probably, I think the oldest location that I've shot in Albuquerque. I think it goes right back to the early 20th century. If you look at the front steps, there's actually a carriage step you'd use to step down from a horse-drawn carriage out in front of the house.
Yes,
that you can see in all the wide shots. It's really a very nice house. It's got a lot of texture to it, and it suits Mike to a T.
It does, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Now you listen and you shut up. This man has other things on his mind. He's not thinking about you.
I love the turn Jimmy makes in this scene. He comes in with so much energy, so much anger, and then when he finally gets to kind of the crux of what he's feeling, he quiets in such a brilliant way.
And he believes Mike after everything they've been through. He believes every word that Mike says.
It's so special having a Jimmy and Mike scene. And these two didn't really cross paths that much in earlier seasons of this show, and we've gotten several episodes in a row where they get to interact, and it's always so special.
That's true. There was a lot more to their relationship than we saw in Breaking Bad. That's for sure.
And Mike is, to me, is really Saul's connection to his dark side, his dark side conscience, I guess.
Está muy bien.
And then here we are at Don Eladio's pool. And then of course with Stephen Bauer and Javier Huerga. They're both wonderful actors. I'd worked with Javier before. I'd never worked with Stephen Bauer. And he was so joyful and enjoyed himself so much. It was just infectious. It was just really so much fun to work with him. And that one little line that Tony says when he calls that guy Charlie Manson, that was an improv. And it's a great one.
How many drug lords has he played in his career?
That's a great question.
But you buy into it. You buy into it totally.
Well, these guys, they seem like they're cut from a little bit of the same cloth. Lalo and Don Eladio. They're both. They both enjoy being bad. They both enjoy being powerful.
De parte de Fring. Excelente. Sí.
And it's fun to see how Lalo manipulates the boss here. That was a real pleasure.
I remember this day, Peter was very active, and I remember you getting on your stomach and finding, awesome angles.
That's right, Val. I remember you guys were having fun over by Video Village too. That was a big day.
Yes.
That was good.
The Magnum PI car.
This was the first thing we shot, I think, for this episode.
Mm-hmm. This is day one.
And it's always, we never had a really great outside for Don Eladio. So this is yet another location, and we had to be very careful to frame out the Sandia Mountains, which are right behind them. Hopefully they're not there, but they might be.
The frunk.
So Val, how nervous was I on the first day?
Oh, well, I know you were because you told me, but you didn't seem nervous at all. I mean, it was such a treat. Getting to work for you is always a treat, but seeing you as a director on set was something I hadn't seen and something I haven't seen on any show. So just seeing you transform into director, which you're still just as nice, but it's putting on a different hat while also, still being just as generous with the actors as you always are. It was really fun to see, that side and how much care you put into the shots and having those conversations with the actors. I haven't quite seen that before, so.
It was a lot of fun, and you were very helpful, Val. It was great having you there. It's always different. I spend so much of the year in Burbank, working on the scripts and working on editing, and it's just such a pleasure to get to come to Albuquerque and really get to work with everybody more closely and get to have fun trying to direct a TV show. And of course, one of the amazing things here is Michael Mando, I hope he wouldn't mind my saying this, he is not fluent in Spanish. He has to learn his lines very carefully, phonetically, and he does a great job. And this was a tricky scene, and he really nails it. Both these guys do.
Y mantener fuera la competencia.
Nuevo territorio.
This is such a big scene for Nacho too. I mean, it's meeting the boss. It's scary, and he plays it so well.
It's true.
Pandillas.
It's interesting to write characters who only appeared on Breaking Bad when they show up on Better Call Saul. Don Eladio, I always feel like I'm taking extra care with the characters who we've inherited from the mothership. Mark, were you? You're going back to Albuquerque after you were away for a few years. Was Albuquerque different when you returned?
From the perspective of the job, it was like coming home. There were some. I feel as comfortable in Albuquerque as I do in Vancouver. There'd been some minor personnel changes within the art department and construction scenic. Steve Brown was the foreman during Breaking Bad, and he stepped into the coordinator position, and it was seamless. He understood the process, and it was like I'd never been away. And when I arrived, I was treated royally. I felt so good about being there.
Well, we loved having you back for this season. It was really special. Steve has built so many wild things for this show. He built the giant horse that goes in the lobby at Mesa Verde, of course, and he built the pump jack that Kim almost ran into. That was complete fabrication. There's just so many. It's so much fun to see these crazy ideas come to life.
We've got some really, really great and talented people on the crew. It's all them. Peter Lane, who built that pump jack, fabricated that, and it's amazing what these guys pull off. But it's also what makes it fun too, is we're always doing something different.
Well, we try to give you something different every season. We do our best. We do our best.
So far, so good.
Really?
Yeah.
This is I really like this scene. This one came out. I don't know if I have a lot to say about it, but it's somehow this one came together nicely from my point of view. And I think we were on this set for maybe 2 days, and we had a lot of material to shoot, and it was so well put together, and Bob and Ray were so set, ready to go, that it went very quickly. It was a lot of fun.
And again, totally different lighting mood and color temperature.
That's great.
This scene really turns the whole show, I think, Ariel. I don't know if you'll agree, because this
100%.
Jimmy's really ready to break up.
It's over.
It's the he's seeing himself in the clearest light, for lack of a better word, than I think he has in a while, sort of seeing things clearly. And Bob does such a great job playing it. I love this little thing he does with his foot here. He's sort of like the way he's sitting on the bed. He's just kind of, he knows the truth, and he's so ready to, it really feels like he's ready to give up, that he knows that, he's on a bad choice road. And if is he going to drag Kim into hell with him?
We should probably just check out.
It's just, and nobody says it. Nobody says we're about to break up, but that's that's the feeling. And that's, I really like that. One of the things I always tell directors is to be sure to do wide shots, because our actors act from the tops of their heads to the soles of their feet, and that's a great example you just called attention to, Ariel, where he moves his foot that way. And how do you know? How do we know what that means? It's hard to say, but it means a lot.
I have to say, Kim reading this menu, just describing this burger, just instantly makes me hungry every single time, to the point where I think I ate like everything in Albuquerque for the next 2 days. I want truffle salt on everything.
Well, you gave me as a gift truffle salt, which I really appreciated. In fact, I just had it at lunch.
Oh, you're welcome, Peter.
And also the music that Thomas G brings to this just gives it a tone. We're always trying to see if we can help the dramatic transitions by using especially source music. It's fun to do. It can kind of help us to get from one thing to another. It's really, and again, the set, you can see every time we come back to it, there's different practicals on, and it just has a different look each time, which is kind of amazing.
Before we got married?
No, that's the camera department just using every element that's offered.
There were even things that they weren't able to use. For instance, the way you built that set, those little shelves for the lights, the back would actually come off, so Marshall could light through them if he wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
We thought about putting a camera back there. We just didn't have enough material to shoot. Just to do another season right in that one set.
So
there was something funny happened on this, because of course Bob's character is eating a hamburger here, and Bob said, I need somebody, I need to talk to somebody. And then I came over, rushing over as I do. He said, not you. And so I was a little offended. And I forget who he called over. Trina Siopi, our producer. He asked her a question, and she nodded at him. And I found out what he was asking was, is my fake eating realistic? Because he just couldn't eat any more hamburger. So he was doing a little bit of fake eating. I don't know if any of it actually made it on screen, but that's the attention to detail. He wanted to make sure if he was doing fake eating, it wasn't gonna hurt the scene.
He's a pro.
He is.
Hair falls out.
Yeah.
Nice. Or we.
I remember Peter and Ariel were sort of coming up with even more ideas in case you needed more ideas for Kim and Jimmy to prank Hamlin with, and that was a fun day.
That was. We had a whole, and we shot some of it. We had a whole montage that was supposed to go between these two scenes. And, you know, it was basically Jimmy and Kim coming up with more ideas and enjoying each other. And it just, once we started cutting it, I realized, boy, we really don't need it. And so we cut a little bit of material out, and it helped the running time. But I also think it would have, the sequence kind of would have overstayed its welcome if we'd kept it. And I love this crazy idea to shoot under the covers like this. And Marshall made it look really easy. There's something about blocking off parts of the actors' faces, if it's natural, that feels very good. I really enjoyed doing this particular sequence. I like the intimacy of it.
It is very intimate scene.
Bribing witnesses, something like that. You know what that'd mean for the.
And yet they're talking about legal maneuvers.
Isn't that the cornerstone of this show, though? Intimately talking about legal procedures.
That's true. You know, you're right. These two kind of mix work and play and romance in the strangest possible way. And I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, think about how much they put into that.
I think the way we originally wrote it, Kim actually put her head under the covers at the beginning of the scene, and then he followed her. And Ray said, I think she read that version, and she said, I don't want to put my head under the covers. It seems like I'm ashamed.
Yeah, but you would.
And so we just started with them under the covers, and boy, am I glad we did.
This is how you do it.
It's beautiful. I love that scene.
Yeah.
I love the lighting in that scene too. It reminds me a little bit of young Jimmy and Chuck in the tent.
Yeah.
At the beginning of episode 310.
Yeah.
Get their money now, well, they can still use it.
Just a really cool way.
So Ariel, let me ask you. I don't know how to ask this quite exactly, but when when you're in the writer's room, we all break these scenes together. But when you start writing, how do you start? How do you start once you have what the point of the scene is? You have some ideas about it. What do you do?
Okay.
Well, I usually you start with the cards that we all kind of break together in the room, and from there you kind of expand on that to an outline. And then I typically read through the outline and, highlight the sections that I think, this describes what I want to say in the script. And I, kind of write those in script form and just sort of elaborate from there. This is something I learned from Jenny Hutchison. Just do a vomit pass.
Mm-hmm.
Get it on the page first, and then go through and make it good, essentially.
Yeah.
What's your process?
Oh, it's remarkably similar. I usually write either the description or the dialogue first. By the way, that kitchen, again, this is a location, but the kitchen is actually a set. And Mark, this was a long discussion during prep because we weren't sure whether to shoot. Why did you think we needed to build a set for that kitchen?
Because I knew what you were going to do in there. No, there was the house. As you said earlier, the house, it was absolutely perfect for the episode. But we knew that there was some mayhem headed our way in the kitchen, and it just turned out to be, from a scheduling and from a production point of view, more practical to build it as a set piece. We had fire, we had heavy smoke, we had gunfire, we had flying plaster. It just made sense to make it a built set.
And speaking of building, this deck you put in, of course, the wall was built. And, one of the things that Mark made a gigantic contribution to this scene, because it was your idea to put this fire there. When I first visualized this, I visualized it very differently. And Mark, you had the idea of having this little fire right here. And drives the whole scene. And I can't imagine the scene without it, but I certainly did until you came up with this idea of having this fire going here. I think that's part of the fun is get everybody throwing an idea and making it better.
It is.
Mm-hmm.
It is. And again, it's about giving the camera department the tools to get that great look, that great rim light on Lalo. And
I really love the writing in this scene because we see Lalo as this vicious character, but here he's just talking about an everyday, struggle that everyone has, which is he can't sleep. And it really adds this humanity to him that we're not really used to seeing. And I just remember reading it in the script and how it struck me, that he's a human being.
Mm-hmm.
That's so true, Val. And he, if I'm not careful, every episode of everything I do, somebody's going to be talking about having trouble sleeping. So it's something he has.
Relatable.
It's something he has in common with Dean Norris's character on Breaking Bad in a scene that I also wrote. So there you go.
Now you're talking.
I think that though that is what really makes this and Breaking Bad successful is the writer's room never loses touch with the humanity of the characters. And you can identify with each one of them. I mean, you see the anguish that he's going through and the fear he's got and I mean, he wants to live in this scene and he just doesn't. He's panicked because he doesn't know how to. He's in a corner. But they're all human. They're all human beings. You can easily put yourself into each one of these characters and believe it.
I thought you got lost.
So we're going to see a lot of action very soon, and it's going to go by very quickly. So I have to ask Al. Here you are, Al Goto. You've been I can't imagine doing a sequence like this without you. You were there on my first episode of Breaking Bad, helping to figure out how the hell to blow up the car on Breaking Bad. And boy, every episode I've done since you've been there. So Al, when you read a script, when you read one of these things, or you see storyboards, what's your, it's the same question. What's your approach? How do you make things real? What are you thinking about?
I look at what you got on the pages, and then if it's depending on what they're doing, if it's a fight, I try to think of how that character fights. Is he technical? Is he not technical? If they're skilled or not skilled, and certain guys are more clever. Are they going to use the environment if they are not such great fighters to make it a little more interesting in terms of fights? And then I just try to think of what we can do to try to make it the most dynamic, to whether it's a guy jumping, trying to do the roof jump that you guys had in the earlier episodes, or with Mando throwing the oil, things like that in the face, things to get the upper hand. No. I've been really lucky on your shows. And I love it because you've planted all the seeds, and I can see all the bad guys are coming out, and we're gonna have a lot of fun. Can't wait to continue.
Yeah, Al. One of the things you did for me here was we had storyboards that I worked on with Ted Slampiak, and you did a animatic, or not even animatic. You did a little video.
A little previs.
A little previs video, which was very handy, based on those storyboards. And you just those things are invaluable to me, especially because I think I've directed a little bit, but I think there's only been one gunshot that I've ever had in a movie or television episode before this. And so I really wanted to make sure that this was all going to work properly. And we, most of this we ended up shooting in one very long day in this kitchen that Mark built. And this was also a day where we got a third camera, which was really handy.
That was a fun day, and Warner had all the effects going off, and those were all dialed in. So it's nice when they got a good effects guy and good lighting, and Mark set up gave us room on the set so we can do what you had scripted there. Because that kitchen wasn't as big as that. Mark gave us extra room.
That's right. And of course, Matt Fate, one of our props masters, was in charge of the weapons. And
yes.
I'm very leery of weapons. I want to know that everything is extremely safe. Here we go. This makes me laugh.
Love
every
that
bathroom. Sorry, this was such a fun thing to see. I laugh every time that this bathtub comes up. It just delights me.
That was the best.
This is incredible. He was booking it. He's going
Mark,
so fast here.
What's this? Did you dig a tunnel? What is this tunnel made out of?
It's a trade secret.
Because on the outside, it looked sort of like foam.
Yeah, that was foam that we carved. We just basically made a foam tunnel and then carved it and plastered, painted it, added some dirt. So that was all on the stage.
Yeah, it was styrofoam insulation to start with.
And this is the only shot with a digital fence extension. We did not have a fence on this side of the house, a wall, and so that's our good friends at Rodeo did that. And the other thing that was sort of fun and difficult about that particular shot of Lalo coming out of the tunnel is that it turned. Mark, you both of you guys, Mark and Steve, as I recall, came to me and said, we really can't dig very deep here. We're very near the Rio Grande, so the water table is high.
Yeah.
And so we could only dig, what was it, like 2.5 feet down?
Yeah.
It's about 3 feet.
And we were thinking we thought we'd have to build a set piece and do a green screen and do all sorts of other things. And then Tony came in and he just showed us how he could fold himself up and simulate climbing out of there. And he saved us all that hassle through his brilliant acting, physical acting.
Also, just a shout out to Dave Porter. This score was unbelievable, and I loved his touch to this episode. You really get a sense of the, anxiety.
Mm-hmm. I love that Lalo has a little theme, right? We hear it in episode 509, I believe, and I love the repeat here. Gives me goosebumps.
Maybe we'll hear more of that theme next season. Who knows? Yeah, this was
so fun here.
This tunnel was so complex. It's amazing to me. It's amazing to me how fast it goes by, that whole sequence.
They put a bunch of some hits in the tunnel as well, and I don't know if you guys used the hits on that shot or not, because that gave the dust a lot more dust effect, because quite a bit of dust was going to fall as it was, but that just enhanced some. And then I forgot to say when Lalo's running away, you guys added the lightning strikes, which that helped quite a bit to make it look like there was a lot more gunfire going on than there actually was.
The lightning strikes being a device that will create a flash of light. And I believe that was your idea. And that was, of course, we have the fantastic electric crew.
Yeah.
And what I remember is a discussion between you, Al, and Werner, and the rest of the departments, because you kept on suggesting that more things could get shattered and busted and blown up in that kitchen. And there was a long discussion about who was going to have to clean it up for the resets.
Yeah, Mark didn't want to go for all the bath gels getting shot.
Give regular people the kind of representation usually only millionaires get.
I was going to say
we worked this hotel room, didn't we?
We did. And this, of course, the scene the last scene we're going to see with Jimmy and Kim this season. And she is taking the bull by the horns. What do you think is going on with her, Ariel?
She is a mystery. I think she's gone on such a journey this season, and especially in the last couple of episodes, kind of figuring out what exactly she wants, what's important to her, doubling down on her relationship with Jimmy, doubling down on her PD work. I think, we said earlier, Jimmy's seeing things clearly. I think Kim's seeing things clearly. Or at least she thinks she is.
Unforgivable.
Yeah, I think, she's such a fascinating mystery.
It's interesting. I for a long time, I felt like we didn't completely understand Jimmy. And in some ways, now it's Kim who's the bigger mystery.
Yeah.
It's an interesting scene. Just the way it laid out, and it's super simple, obviously, but there's a lot going on there.
Mm-hmm.
And these two are great.
They're so great.
This is I try to avoid having every scene be going back and forth in singles and over the shoulder shots, but this is one that really warranted it. And of course, the makeup on Bob is kind of amazing. That he's still suffering from his days in the desert back in 508 and Bagman.
What night?
I love that line. Wouldn't I?
She knows how to drop a bomb.
Mm-hmm. She's seeing the shortest distance between 2 points.
I'm gonna go take a shower.
I think we did about 100 takes of this. That was just, for some reason, it was tricky. These last two setups, they were tricky. I think I'm glad where we landed with them. That's for sure. And of course, we were thinking about the end of season 4 between these two, kind of rhyming the two scenes.
Yeah, I love that. I love that that callback of the season, or the end of last season.
One thing that amazes me is how long it took to do those setups of the dead people. For some reason, those were very painstaking. I don't know why. It's just because they're all still lives.
Ugh. This is so gross.
This is Robert Paul Taylor. Robert Paul Taylor, who is he's a fine actor. Actually, all these gentlemen who came in and came in ready to kill. It was a very good group of actors, and they would be off by themselves working on coordinating their movements and figuring out how they were going to manipulate their weapons and checking in with our armaments experts, even when they weren't being shot. So there was a lot of passion on the set for all these folks. That makes a huge difference.
And they did a good job on their action. A lot of them did most of the takes themselves, and we just overlapped, I think, one with the doubles just for safety.
That's true. There's especially one guy who does a jump into the tunnel that kind of makes my teeth rattle every time I see it. And of course, Tony here is.
Tony's great. Yeah.
He's just so great. We kept on wondering if we should end the season on Lalo or on Jimmy and Kim, but Jimmy and Kim did not play right after this.
I think that you leave the season with a great big fear about what's going to happen next with this ending.
Well, as we speak, we're in the middle of a pandemic. I hope we get to shoot season 6 relatively soon. We're having fun. And also the end, that last little sound effect was temped in by Joey Reinish, who was our assistant editor for Skip McDonald. And he created this really interesting sound that was a great way to end things. and that Nick Forsugar and our sound team kind of ran with that idea. Nice season.
Nice season. Good, really good closer. Really good closer.
Thank you guys so much.